October 21st, 2019 to order, and the first order of business is the invocation and the pledge.
I see the...
Please pray with me.
Thanks, Jay.
Dear God, we thank you for the change of the seasons. God, the rain, the beautiful autumn leaves that you'll bring, God. Thank you for the business that we'll discuss here today. Help us to make fair and just and wise decisions in the life of our town. Thank you for new businesses and new residents, and thank you for our longtime residents and longtime businesses. Thank you for all those public servants and nonprofits and churches that do some of the hard work in our community. Thank you for our staff today. We ask your blessing on our meeting. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Terry, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Nice crowd today. Thanks for everyone coming out. A lot of exciting things going on in town, so that you want to hear about. First, we do have a recognition. We have a proclamation for Dyslexia Awareness Month. And with us today is Lisa Bottenberger, President and Operations Director of Boundless Expectations, and Sarah and Madeline Nielsen. If y'all will come up, I'll present that proclamation.
She wants them all. Does she want all of them? She wants all of them. All right, so you got to go over. You got to go to stand next to Miss Lisa. Yep, and the kids. Go. Here. Go ahead.
Come on up, everybody.
Get in. Tiger, get in.
Certainly appreciate you all coming today. Okay, Dyslexia Awareness Month. Whereas dyslexia is the most common learning disability in children and persists throughout the life, affecting 1 of every 5 people regardless of race, gender, age, and socioeconomic status. And whereas neurological in origin, dyslexia affects the way the brain processes information and is characterized by difficulties with reading, writing, and spelling despite normal intelligence. And whereas Dyslexia Awareness Month is an opportunity for people of all ages to learn about the importance of early identification and alternative instruction, early diagnosis of dyslexia is critical to ensure that individuals with dyslexia receive focused, evidence-based intervention that leads to the promotion of self-awareness and self-empowerment and the provision of necessary accommodations to ensure school and life success. And whereas teachers and students benefit from increased educator professional training about dyslexia and the evidence-based teaching strategies designed to better identify and educate students with dyslexia, which contributes to the success of dyslexia students enjoy in the classroom and in life and later in employment. And now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of Leonardtown, do hereby proclaim October as Dyslexia Awareness Month and urge our community to offer support to those affected by dyslexia and recognize the dedicated efforts of those who are working to raise awareness. Signed this day, October 21st, Mayor and Town Council.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Ready?
Great. Thank you all for coming today. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Madeline.
Smile nice.
Is that all I need to...
You're welcome to stay, but you certainly don't have to sit through this this meeting.
That's all you need me for?
Yeah, but Papa's not here to pick you up, so
Just have to wait.
yeah, you have to wait. See this pen?
I don't want to go to the meeting.
You want Papa to pick you back?
What?
You want Papa to take you back?
Okay, we'll get back to the minute, or to the
Agenda.
agenda here. And the next item would be the approval of minutes from last month. Everyone should have received a copy of the minutes. Any comments, questions, corrections? Anyone care to make a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here.
Yeah, okay, yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Rebecca, treasurer's report, please.
All right, just briefly, the September information was in your packet. I did transfer $250,000 to the local government investment pool. We are 25% through the budget. If there are any questions that you have about the revenue and expense statement, just let me know about that. I did complete the draft of the financial statements last week. It was submitted to the auditor, and they are conducting their review. At this time, they have planned to attend their November council meeting to make the presentation. Briefly, there will be revenue surplus. There will also be expenditure savings. So we will have an increase in unassigned fund balance. And my estimate is that we will be about 60%, which is above the target 50% of general fund operating expenditures.
Great.
Those statements will look a little different. They are taking all of the data and putting it into a format that they prefer, easier for us to change numbers, add numbers, all that stuff. So it'll look a little different. All the same statements will be there. So this week I will be working on the mandatory Maryland reporting document. It's called the Uniform Financial Report, and that also has an October 31st deadline. So after that big task is complete, I'll be catching up on some quarterly work, and then we go right into the tax sale process. It starts in November of every year. At this point, we only have probably less than 10 accounts that will go through that process.
Okay.
And as time goes, we do receive payments, and by March of next year, it's generally only 1 or 2 accounts.
Okay. Laschelle and I did meet with the auditor last week, and he didn't see any issues at all, so I'm expecting a good report. Anything else? Anything for Rebecca?
Those are new auditors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And where are they coming from?
Philadelphia? Yeah.
Okay.
But
Excellent.
that didn't cause any issues, no.
Good.
Okay. Anything else for Rebecca? Thank you. Jada, Planning Department.
The last planning and zoning meeting was held September 16th. There was only one item on the agenda, and that was the Old Town Auto Showroom on the corner of 5 and 245, excuse me. That was a request for concept site plan approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve that. As of right now, there is nothing on the agenda for tomorrow's scheduled meeting, therefore the meeting has been canceled. You can see from the permit listing that things kind of slowed down a bit in September. However, it's the time of year where that typically happens, and that's the time of year that I use to go through the existing permits to get them closed out. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Jada? Okay, thank you very much. Corporal Nelson, police report. Everyone should have received a copy of it. Quite a bit going on, obviously. Anything you want to add to that?
No, all the September events went well attended, and we're getting into, we've had all the October events now, of course, and then trick or treat on the square this weekend, which will, if it's not raining, will probably be lots of people out and about.
Oh, yes.
And
So,
then Veterans Day, so.
right. How many did we expect, or did we figure we had last year for trick or treat?
1,800 to 2,000 or so people.
I was gonna say, I know I gave out a bunch of candy.
It was a ton. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
good though. It's a nice event.
I see there was 75 vehicle stops in town last month. Is that mainly on Route 5?
A lot of them are on, Clark's
Yeah.
Rest out in front.
Right.
Penny's the strip there.
Yeah.
And then, actually there was quite a few on Lawrence Avenue as well.
Oh, okay. Was anything special going on back there?
We just had some complaints of
Okay,
too fast.
Yep.
So they were sitting back there running radar.
okay. Very good. Any questions for Kristi? Thank you very much. And Laschelle, your report. And
Okay.
we've already done the dyslexia, so.
So the next
Yeah.
item is a presentation from Arnett Muldrow with Tripp Muldrow, who is here. This is a follow-up to the downtown strategic plan that we adopted back in February. If you've driven through the square, you'll see some of the recommendations that we had budgeted for this year have begun. The sod is in, we've opened up a lot of the landscaping, really trying to make it a more usable space on a day-to-day basis, not just for large events. So it's looking really good, and we're excited to make those changes. In August, we invited May Henreichel and Arnett Muldrow back. They did the original downtown strategic plan, and we had a follow-up for 3 items, which is rebranding or updating of our brand, the alley networks, and the wayfinding signage. So this is a presentation by Tripp on those meetings.
Can I just say something before Tripp speaks? Just because I wanted to be on the record that the council has not had a chance to review the presentation. In fact, I think the only one that's seen the presentation beforehand was me, and I saw it 2 hours ago. So this is something that the council hasn't seen. And I do have a few concerns that I kind of wanted to show you before the presentation. And one just is something that you guys have all seen before, which is the Google logo. And I just kind of thought that we should have that in our head before we actually saw the presentation, and show how the 3 colors work on the Google logo, which is a very common logo that we see. And then the next thing, the military contractors are pretty important in our town, and this is a local contracting firm that we have here, and just to see what their logo looks like. So I just thought there were some things that I had a couple concerns with the presentation, and I really was hoping that we, the council and the LBA could get together and talk about it before we actually made this presentation. So I would like to make a motion to push off this presentation until the council and the LBA can work together to present a unified front on the logo design.
Well, that's what this whole thing is about.
I'm just making a formal motion, and if it dies, it dies. But I just wanted on the record that, it wasn't something that the council has had, any input in as to now. So.
Well, and again, this is what they're going to present is very flexible. So, changes can be made.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was just trying to put it on the record. So that's it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, hearing none.
Thank you.
So, Tripp, welcome. And actually, the council can move over here and sit over here so you can see the presentation.
Give you time to get settled. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and good afternoon, everyone in the audience. It's a real pleasure to be back here in Leonardtown. This is a community that really does get things done, and it's just a thrill to have had the chance to work with you and continue to work with you. As Laschelle said, I think my clicker be off. Turning it on helps. As Laschelle said, this is really part of an ongoing process that has to do with the downtown strategic plan. There was an initial facade workshop that happened in 2018, early 2018, and the actual strategic plan workshop happened in September of 2018. It included 16 roundtable meetings and a wrap-up meeting. There were about 100 attendees, and And then there was a group presentation where we returned in November and presented the concepts there. And then there was a workshop through GoToMeeting, and then there was a resolution adopting the downtown strategic plan that was passed in February of 2019. One of the recommendations, or several of the recommendations that came out of that strategic plan, were to explore the alleyways here in Leonardtown, looking at how they might be improved as multi-use spaces and not just spaces to maybe park a car or store things. And then another was to explore possibly updating the brand identity of Leonardtown. The community has had an identity that it's been using very effectively, and it's been neat to see that, because having worked in hundreds of communities across the country on branding, we're not accustomed to seeing a community kind of have a consistent brand identity that they're using. And then a third piece of that was to explore wayfinding. And as you all know from Route 5, there's definitely some wayfinding along it. And once you get into the downtown, there's a kind of an accrual of signs that has happened through the years. And what we've kind of come to find out across the country is that our DOTs do a really good job of getting us out of a place, but they don't necessarily do a good job of getting us around to the destinations within a place. So that's another piece that we looked at. And there we had 8 workshops and over 70 attendees come to those workshops. And it was great to have that input, because it really ran the gamut from citizens to shopkeepers to the Leonardtown Business Association, staff members, representatives from the county. We even had a young professionals roundtable group that was really good at contributing their thoughts to the concept. And so from the branding standpoint, we ended up with some goals that kind of stood out for that. The first one was one that was kind of a little bit of a surprise. In every roundtable we had, people said, we'd like to see a fresh approach. I think when we came in, a lot of folks were saying, or we were kind of thinking, well, we're going to do some fine tuning, maybe some tweaking to the existing identity, maybe some color freshening, but it was like, we want something fresh. We've got a lot going on. We've got some great shops, some great restaurants, a lot of progress, and the market data kind of bears out a lot of this information, where Leonardtown, Maryland is the place where people who live in St. Mary's County come for that authentic, local shopping and dining and event experience. This is that destination. And so it becomes an attraction not only for people who live here in the community, but in the county as a whole, and for visitors as well. We wanted something that, and this came out in the input, we wanted to express that energy, that excitement about the future of this community, and say, this is the place, it's moving forward. It's historic, yes, it's historic, but we also are looking at the future. We wanted to have something that was more of an icon that could be used and expanded. All too often in community brands, what happens in kind of the branding by committee process, there tends to be kind of a gravitation to, let's zoom in on something literal. Let's pick, I call it the sharks and jets of it. We'll pick a lamppost, and the lamppost will be it, or we're going to pick a series of building facades, and that'll be our logo. Something maybe a little more figurative, something that can give some energy and can be interpreted in different ways. Another important part of this was having an identity that related to key partners. And in developing this, we had great participation from the LBA, we had participation from citizens in the community, we had county economic development participation, county tourism participation. It was great to have all these partners, and everyone's singing from the same book right now. And it's this neat kind of time for St. Mary's County and for Leonardtown. And then looking at a position statement and tagline that's highly expandable while honoring a long-standing phrase associated with Leonardtown, a most convenient place. And so, and I'll say in my career, having worked in so many of these communities, I've never had a 200-plus-year-old tagline walking into a community. And those of you who are from here and kind of know the history, know where it came from. If you're a visitor who kind of found your way here, it's like, this convenient place, And so it is kind of an interesting thing that we wanted to explore, but we didn't want to give up on it either. So we like to look at the competition, you know, sort of what other folks are doing. You see Solomon's Business Association, Charles County, Visit Annapolis, Calvert County. What you see in Fredericksburg is a unique thing, and this happens a lot, where downtown is kind of doing one thing and the community tourism is doing something else. So two different messages from the same community. That's something we encounter a lot. It's just interesting to kind of see that and then see what you have here. You have a logo that Leonardtown has been using for quite some time. It does show the facade of one of your historic buildings downtown. It shows the water. You have the Business Association, which is using the same colors and the same typeface, which is something we always hope to see. And then you have the more formal logos and seals, and these are very traditional. I'm going to tell you something, and now you're not going to be able to unsee it. You're going to start counting them everywhere you go. But depending on where they are, the seal for Leonardtown is supposed to have 13 stars in it. And there are a lot of examples that only have 12. So have fun, go on a scavenger hunt. But all this is kind of outlined in state statute as to what the seals for the county and for the community are. And then you see the more popular identifiers. So economic development is using a yellow, goldish color that has a symbol that shows kind of forward motion, upward motion. You could interpret it as aerospace. You could interpret it as nautical. You could have all kinds of different things. And then Visit St. Mary's is doing some neat things just with a word type, where you have the apostrophe of, Mary's is actually the end of the Y. So they're just clever things that can be done to communicate in any kind of brand. And really the consensus was through the input was, you know what, we've had a good run. We've had a really good run with this identity that we've been using, but it's time to look at something fresh and something new. And so what we did, we kind of started to break things down. We look at the different colors that are being used. We found some common ground between what Visit St. Mary's was using, the County Economic Development, Leonardtown itself, and ended up looking at a color palette that incorporated some greens and some blues, have a little bit of that bright, that orange kind of peach color, and then a yellow, and then the tan, which is part of the base color of your logo. One of the challenges we encountered, and I think you know this having seen the prior logo, Leonardtown is a very, very long word. And so when you use an all cap treatment to it, it tends to get even longer. And so finding a typeface that could get the L and the D and the T and the W kind of all nested in and be still legible was something we really wanted to tackle. And so Bookmania ended up being the typeface that we selected for this. And I'll show you some little tricks in Bookmania that are interesting, is that when you have this typeface, it can actually be modified. Some of the descenders can curl more, some of the ascenders can curl more. And then whenever we work on one of these for the name itself, we're digging into it and like actually customizing the heights of the letters and the spacing of the letters so that it's your own individual thing. It can't kind of be typed out again. It kind of becomes your piece. We like having a secondary typeface that is contemporary and clean and fresh. The thing we like about the first one is it's very classic and timeless, but it's got a little bit of spirit to it. The next one is a clean, sans serif, and then an accent typeface that kind of has a little bit of a handwritten script to it, a little bit of a piece to that. And then, whenever we do this, I can talk until, our heads explode about branding and identity and all that. But one of the things that's really important is having a narrative that captures the spirit of a community. And one of the things that you all told us in these roundtable meetings really captured the spirit of what Leonardtown means to you. And I hope that through what I'm about to read, it kind of reflects back what you feel about this place. And it kind of culminates in what we feel like is a base tagline for the community. We're a most historic place. Our past is rooted in the earliest settlements of Maryland, where these lands offered the freedom of religious expression that would Established as the seat of St. Mary's County in 1708, the term "a most convenient place" was coined by the early leaders to denote our position along the water and amidst the fields that provided abundance for our people. Our history is that of courage, freedom, and innovation. We're a most beautiful place. Our setting in the rolling hills of southern Maryland and along the waters of Renton Bay allow us stunning vistas to a verdant landscape. Our downtown evokes the charm and wonder of one of the few towns in Maryland centered on a square. Our neighborhoods, parks, waterways, and trails contribute to the distinct character of a community that cares deeply about enhancing the feel of a true small town. We're a most welcoming place. We're a friendly greeting by a local shopkeeper, a delicious meal served with pride, a party on the square, and a warm wave from a neighbor. It is here that longtime families with deep ties to our town welcome new neighbors who have carefully chosen this place to make it their home. It's here that the young and the young at heart can nurture creative ideas. We're a place where visitors to our region find the true spirit of a community connected. We're a most creative place. We're artists who practice our talents in painting, sculptures, photographs, and mosaics. We're entrepreneurs whose ideas imbue our town with an atmosphere of sophistication, perfectly joined with the comfort of community. We're bringing art to the streets, new events and activities, and a nurturing place for our citizens, our county, and our region. It's through art and culture that the facets of our community come alive. We're a most innovative place. We're restoring our downtown with passion and cooperation, bringing new life to our square. With vision, we saw that our connection to the bay could be reimagined as a promenade, a pier, and parks that have once again tied us to the waters that surround us. We look to the future, curating plans for continued connections, thoughtful growth, and a keen awareness that small town life is the very essence of our community. We are Leonardtown, Maryland, a most exceptional place. And so the exceptional is kind of a placeholder, and as we'll show it, it can rotate for different words. And so instead of saying convenient, we can use excellent. We can use wonderful, beautiful, a most spirited place. The icon and the typeface, when you see it kind of put together, the typeface allows the L to kind of tuck under the E. It gives us some space to put the tagline underneath. We're using the curl on the end with the N to brace us as well. And then we focus on something that was part of your original logo, which is kind of the diamond shape that shows up on the building, but it's also the square. And within the square is the monogram L, and the blue denotes the water, the green denotes the landscape around you, and the gold on the top is the horizon and future of the community. We began to look at this and test it in ways, to use the different tagline and substitute these things so that as LBA and individual businesses are marketing, it becomes a tool that can be used over and over again by the different partners. So whether it's a most amazing place, a most historic place, a most spirited place, you name it, it can kind of fill that gap. And by no means are we saying that convenient disappears forever. You'll come put it back in when you're feeling particularly historic or nostalgic. We also like to test it with things like the Maryland modifier, just to make sure it works that way as well, works alone. We have to look at things like solid color versions of it too. We had some real interesting discussion about this where you'll actually see the angles of the letters as they come off form the facets within the box here and actually form the L. So there's actually sort of a geographic pattern to it, or geometric pattern that comes out in it. We wanted to look at the seal too. This is the statutorily correct seal to the letter, we believe, including the ribbon with the gold tassels on the end. And then show how that could work too with the typeface. A really simple kind of execution of the corporate brand of the city, which is when the mayor and the commission, the council, they're doing their official duties. This is what your ordinances would show up with that header and the business cards for the county's councilor and others. We also wanted to give an icon for the business association. So we take that same kind of icon there, and then it becomes more of a question box. It becomes a piece of dialogue, because it's the Leonardtown Business Association that's the group that's communicating what's happening with the businesses, what's going on in the community, the events and activities that are coming into play. We have a downtown modifier, showing a couple different options here. And again, tonight's part of that discussion. You know, do we put the green in the middle because the green is the center of the square? Do we not? You know, how do we explore some of these different options? You are an arts and entertainment district, and we harken back to the logo that you've been using on the top, that same font that's been kind of traditionally incorporated, and then exploring several different ideas on how the arts and entertainment district can mature through using some of those new fonts, the new colors, and the new icon. And so we haven't landed on one in particular, just giving some options out there. And then show how the font can be expanded. So if we're looking at the waterfront, you know, taking advantage of the compost set as the symbol of the waterfront. Looking at West Fenwick and East Fenwick, just showing how that works. We're not saying declare all these districts right now. We're just saying, hey, in the future, that may make sense that if there's an event or activity that's just happening on West Fenwick, then the businesses there can collaborate with one another. I'll be talking a little bit about L-Town Alley. It's the alleyways behind the community between Park and Fenwick. Banner system. You already have banners in the community that kind of lead you into the community, and it shows how the facets can be used, and we can get some of the different icons and images in there as well. As we move through the project, we'll be working more on wayfinding signs. That becomes a pretty technical piece of this, as far as how the signs are designed, what's incorporated in them, how those destinations are mapped out, how the turning movements are mapped out, and critical for anyone who is used to going to a downtown. Where can you park? How long can you park there? You know, what are the rules and regulations? How far is it to get from where you park and where you want to be? So that'll be a piece that we look at moving ahead. We even explored some ideas of how this could be implemented, an archway over the street as you kind of head down to the waterfront. And this could be something that you see as you come up from the waterfront into downtown as well. These are not allowed in the community, but they might be considered for outside to kind of pull people in, you know, the most natural place, Leonardtown, Maryland, sort of attracting people in who have that commute every day around. And then we take that identity and the whole system and start to spread it out into events and activities. So the Summer Music Festival, showing the facets, sort of weaving into the sun here. First Friday in Leonardtown. We just kind of show an icon for On the Square, kind of a placeholder here. And then things like t-shirts that you hopefully would not want to wash your car with, or paint your house in, hats, shopping bags. And then we show how the different marketing pieces might play out with individual businesses. So a most unique place, a most natural place, a most delicious place. And then even ways for the artisans and the craftspeople here in Leonardtown to incorporate this into things. So I can imagine eating a chocolate that has this on it. I can imagine this hanging in one of your windows. I can imagine someone with tile doing tile work with this and creating some of this so that the community members can have that participation in this, this whole concept and idea. And then we have kind of this is more of a joke slide because in almost every one of our meetings, people talk about going up the road. We're going up the road, we're going up the road. We say, well, let's just do a design that says, let's go down the road. Let's head down the road. Let's head down the road to Leonardtown to this place where the shops and the restaurants are so unique. And then you see as we start to composite it back together again with the county and the partners together. We also, I'm going to touch very briefly on the alley network because Tom McGilloway, who's our partner at Mahan Reichel, has been working hard on that. This is the alley that's basically is to the east of the square between Fenwick Street and Park. And we're very fortunate Tom was able to meet with all the property owners that adjoin the alley, which is a feat in and of itself, and some of you may be in the room tonight. What he wanted to do is illustrate some of the opportunities that could happen in the alleyway. You can do things in alleyways, still maintain vehicular traffic, but have them be really creative places for people to gather. And so the perspective, you're sort of standing maybe at the top of, well, higher than the top of the hotel, but you're looking toward Fenwick through the alley, showing how this could be kind of treated and connected to the rest of the community. This is more of a ground view, looking through. You see the green space onto the square, and then the alleyway looking toward Fenwick, the string lights and the murals on the wall. Just simple things like, painting the sides of buildings to make them more appealing for people to walk in. And he's picked several different of the logo options. And so much of what we see happen in alleys these days are just really creative uses, movable furniture that can be packed up and stored, games and activities that come out on a weekend night, simple paint that can be done either on the walls in the alley, on utility boxes, to create unique places, art along the alleys. And we've seen this work in so many communities. We worked in Gulfport, Mississippi together, where all the utility boxes and all the trash containers and everything along the alley, different artists were painting those. And so it became this exciting kind of place. Fencing to wall off those places you don't want people sticking their hands or doing things. And then really importantly, lighting. String lights above or ambient lighting that can happen along alleys. And this is a picture on the far left of Fishbone Alley in Gulfport, Mississippi. There's so many opportunities, whether it's special paving that you use in lieu of doing some of the painting, just a lot of opportunities. And then critically having programming with them. This is a community that likes to get together and celebrate and do things. And this can be a place and an area where unique things can happen as well. And so next steps for us, revisions, additions based on feedback from you all. We'll be looking at the wayfinding base map, just understanding where the signs are. We'll return to Leonardtown, prepare the final package for delivery, and then have a marketing plan workshop that we hope will involve the partners that have already been involved in the process up to this point. I want to thank you again. It's been really remarkable to see the number of people who came out to the meetings and provided input, and to see the energy and consistency that we heard from people who gave input through this. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, and to council for questions.
Well, Tripp, I just want to thank you for all your hard work and the visions that you've got that brought all this together, and we look forward to moving to these next steps. And council have any questions for Tripp?
Okay. I was just gonna make a comment.
Should we return to our?
We can, sure. Nothing left up now.
Okay. No. So I was just going to make a comment. So first of all, thank you very much. Great presentation. So when I first saw the icon, everyone knows how much Leonardtown truly does mean to me. I was born here. Leonardtown's my home place. So you pointed out something I didn't notice before. So in the icon to the left side, you can see the L. So I like that. So at first I was like, what's this going to mean to me personally? But that was something I didn't notice. So thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And actually, I was going to add on to that. Did you look at making the L side? Because I never caught it. I looked at the logo before until you pointed out I didn't see the O. And I do like that. I didn't know if you looked at different, like having it a solid blue while the others had the designs. And I didn't know if you tried different ways to make that L.
Different ways, but we can keep exploring if you want to look at it more solid as opposed to the facet, or darken it even more.
Okay.
It started out even more subtle than it is now, and we kind of straightened the lines on it so that it did form an L. We didn't want it to be all the way across both sides, because an L that's more like a V.
Yeah.
So it's long on one side and halfway on the other, but we can certainly look at darkening it and making it more solid.
Okay. Because, like you said, I do like the L in there.
Right. Yeah, it's a monogram kind of embedded in the square, if that makes sense.
Oh,
And again, this is a collaborative effort, and it can be changed and played with, so
Mary?
I was saying, one of the things that we talked about when Tripp and I met before this meeting was I wasn't sure how the mosaic, as beautiful as it is up there, how that's going to interpret to like an embroiderer. Are they going to be able to pull off the colors well? And, you know, one of the things that I see in my branding is that, you know, it's so hard once you get that information out to people. You know, they've got different color printers. The printers are going to, you know, they're going to be printing out paperwork. We're going to have different offsets. And even screen printing, it's going to be really difficult, I think, to get. We talked about like doing the one color screen printing, but might work. But to do multicolor screen printing with all those different facets, I think there may be some difficulty here. Just with the square, the rest of the logo is beautiful, I think.
Anybody else? Okay, how about our partners in this? Anyone have any comments? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Yeah, I'm Nicole Stewart. I'm a member of North End Gallery, and as soon as I saw that logo, I thought of stained glass. And I really appreciate the incorporation of all the different colors. I love the old colors, but this is brighter and as an artist, much more exciting for me, so thank you for that. I'm sure there's ways to make, if it's needed for the L to be more prominent, but still give it that stained glass effect. I mean, that's really, really nice, and the fact that it represents a square.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Chris Castellanos. I'm the Director of Economic Development for St. Mary's County. Great presentation, Tripp. Good job. I've been very supportive of the process from the beginning to the whole strategic downtown plan redevelopment. Downtown Leonardtown is super important for economic development. It's the only downtown historic walkable place in all of St. Mary's County, so I'm supportive. I think it's great that the council has not just kind of rested on the beauty and what St. Mary's County has, but you've said let's go even further and let's bring in some new ideas and see if we can up our game a little bit. And the fact that you've gone to outside consultant, I think is good. Sometimes it's hard to hire outside people, but bringing in fresh eyes and people who have expertise is really important, so I commend you for doing that. But I'm just kind of supportive of the whole process. I like the logo, but to the council and to the community to see what they like. I think you've done a great job, and I like the process you've gone through to listen to people and kind of incorporate what you've heard. So,
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Jason, do you want to?
Well, now I feel like I'd just be echoing everything you said. Jason from Visit St. Mary's. I think it's a wonderful presentation. I'm quite a big fan of the way it's turning out. And I know as we look to do our marketing and partnership with the town moving forward, it's something we could really utilize and something we can heavily push in a lot of the stuff we're doing. Just a general comment. I'm very pleased with the way everything's going.
Thank you. Susan?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Susan Dyer with Sunday Restaurant and Businesses Not Yet Open. And first let me say thank you very much. This was really exciting to see. You know, one of the things that I think of the partners of us with the restaurant were really excited about was the whole downtown strategic plan. Because as you bring a business into an area, you want to see that it's fitting into something. So it not only gave us something to work with, but it's exciting to see plans. And so when you see something like this whole new logo system, and I really appreciate hearing how you went from where we were to where you're taking us, and what's really exciting is the way you described how it really can be used and leveraged to expand into other areas. It's really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Somebody? Oh, Nicole.
Nicole McKay, and I also want to agree with everything. I loved meeting with you prior and everything that went through in the brainstorms, you listened to it. And just being a mother of children in the town, I could see your whole purpose and the whole story that you read to us, being turned into a children's book to be read in elementary schools. It's going to be really great for the kids to hear what Leonardtown means and where it came from. That's it. Good job.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Ellen Lewis, and I'm president of the Leonardtown Business Association. And I and a number of the members of the organization have been involved from the start. And this is the culmination of everything. And it's just so beautiful. It was a privilege to see it before, and just to see it in the setting again. It's really lovely. And I think that having the L there, it really is very striking. And I don't think that there'll be an issue with the printing, because you're just looking at a percentage. You know, when you're printing something that's lighter and darker, it's not necessarily a different color, it's just a percentage. And I just think that the different businesses have been very excited about the concept of a new, like everyone was saying, something new and exciting to sort of define the downtown and just as part of the whole strategic plan. It's just wonderful. Thank you so much for your hard work and your creative endeavors. Really wonderful. And I would love to encourage any of the other businesses to say, what do you think?
Now?
I'm Nell Elder. I'm the director of the St. Mary's County Arts Council. And being a graphic designer for the last 35 years, I'm very appreciative of this logo. And especially, what everyone said, but also the flexibility that we'll have to incorporate it to different things. The old logo, I felt we were kind of locked in, but this one will give us flexibility. So.
Jerry?
Thank you. That's all I can say, and I'm glad that was your work, not ours. I know how hard it is to come up with something that embodies so much of what is in Leonardtown. You put a woulda, shoulda. I think that captures a lot. I love, and you know what? To tell you the truth, I didn't even see that L stand out until somebody said to me, oh yeah, it does have an L there on the square. So I like it. I like the versatility in it to go into different districts within Leonardtown because we know we have them. We have the waterfront, we have the warehouse district, and further developments that's coming out. I think it's flexible enough to accommodate a lot of the future things, forward thinking that Leonardtown will be getting into.
Anyone else? Okay. Tripp, thank you very much. It's been exciting times in Leonardtown, and this is certainly part of it, so thank you. Council have anything else to say?
I just think it was a great collaborative effort between everyone. Everyone did a great job. And I also want to just say to Chris Castellanos, thank you. I think it's very important that the county supports the town. And Chris also attended Economic Development Day for Leadership Southern Maryland. And Chris, you specifically said Leonardtown, so that meant a lot to me. So thank you. Definitely appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the agenda, another exciting happening in Leonardtown.
Okay. We have a request for a liquor license letter of support for Antoinette's Garden. It's a wine bar that is being proposed at 22694 Washington Street. We do have with us today Mr. Jonathan Boss, who is just so excited, and I just love talking to him. He has some great ideas, and he can't wait to be open. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, or?
I'll just give you a brief. My name's Jonathan Boss. I actually grew up living in this town as well. Was unfortunate enough to be born here, like Jada, but I spent many years here, and I really like what you just showed us up there. It's actually going to give us a little bit more ideas in terms of what we can do moving forward with our progress. And I'm just really excited to be a part of this now officially and to the growth.
What are your plans? Can you expand on just a wine bar a little bit? What?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a few different ideas in terms of what we want to serve, what we want to have. We haven't completed the menu entirely because we're kind of open to that. We kind of want to see. We actually want to put something together relatively soon to see what the people want as opposed to what we want to get. So that way we feel as though we incorporate what everybody wants, not just what we want or think.
Okay. So you're going to have a small kitchen, or?
Yeah, small kitchen, nothing big. We're not going to try to compete with the Sweet Days of the World or anything like that, or the racks of the front. We just want to keep it light fair, just kind of keep everything simple, so have it be a place where you can come and hang out for a little, socialize, maybe do some work if you like. Just have a nice, relaxing atmosphere for the professional young folk.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Some of us old adults, too. Okay. I'll give you a wine list. Okay, so he will be applying for his liquor license. It would be a Class D liquor license for on and off sales. And so we just need a motion for supporting that.
Okay.
All right, I move to approve a letter of support for Antoinette's Garden. Class D liquor license for on-off sales at 22694 Washington Street.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion?
What space is that?
It's where Panda Village is right now. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what I'm not.
Thank you.
I think it's great you're opening yourself to other ideas throughout town, like what the people want to, so thank you. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, I'm sorry, in support.
In support, yes. Jonathan, thank you very much. Any idea of time frame?
Well, if everything goes according to plan, we're hoping December, so that would be nice to have the process and everything rolling. Worst case scenario, the beginning of the year, definitely.
Great. Good luck. Thank you.
And I'll get your letter together and we can get it. Thank you. Next, we have just a presentation by Susan Carney regarding her request for consideration of a historic marker in town. Susan is a resident and a local artist.
Welcome.
Hi. If you just stand right here.
Well, I'll show it in a minute. First, I would like to ask you to have really open minds and imagination for my idea. And I think it will really work with Tripp's whole thing. If we think about Leonardtown as a place where a lot of things happen a lot farther back than the traditional time period that he had on his history. So what I'm proposing, and I don't have a big presentation because I want to get feedback first about this idea. And this wouldn't be what it looks like. I'm not a graphic designer and I'm not an illustrator, but I think it would be really a great idea to have a marker down at the wharf that references, commemorates, recognizes the fact that the history here goes back at least 8,000 years, and there's archaeology that's been done 4 different, or 5 different places on Breton Bay that talk about, that reference that. So this is just basically from a painting, it's some vegetation and then some longhouses, which is just an idea. And I don't even think it needs to have a lot of writing. This has a lot of writing about in 1634 what happened. Everybody already kind of knows that, and that's already commemorated in several markers that are around town. So I was thinking one thing we could do is incorporate part of Captain John Smith's map, because on his map he actually has the name of a tribe that looks to be in the Leonardtown area if you look at it on a large scale. And so I guess basically I'm just presenting this to you. As far as money goes, I'm not asking for money. I would be responsible for doing grant writing for the marker. And I'm thinking just a standard, marker that is like this, that you can walk up and look at. And I will just tell you just briefly that when I first moved here 2 years ago, I'm very interested in the history of a place. And I looked at all the markers in town, and I kept looking for, I'm sure there's some native history here. So I went on this search that I'm still in I have a pile of books like this that I've been reading that pertain to all the things that happened here. And it's a very, very fascinating story, what happened here. Not just Leonardtown, but in the county. And as the guy that was the economic development who spoke, I think Leonardtown is the place for a marker like this because it's the county seat and it's a real town. Like some of you might think, well, why doesn't she just, St. Mary's City has a marker, St. Clement's has a marker, but really how many people go there? I mean, people go there specifically to maybe see that. we have so many people that come here for so many different reasons, you know, go down to the wharf, and I just think it would really enhance our town and be a way for our little town in our state to kind of maybe start to grab onto a national movement. And and also something that we can think about is that 15 years from now, which seems like a long time, but it isn't, it's the 400th anniversary of the colonists coming to the county. And a lot of other things that has to do with it, that involve Native and African American people. So there's a lot there that I think we can.
So this would be a historic marker for prior to the 1634.
Prior, yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
That would more reference the fact that people have been living here for about, they're not sure, 8,000 to 10,000 years.
Okay.
People have lived here, right here, and
Sure.
everywhere else.
Right.
So, yeah, not necessarily getting into the post-contact period, because that gets, that gets complicated. And
Okay.
also, just so you know, Rico Newman, who's the Piscataway representative on the Indian, Commission of Indian Affairs, wanted to come today, but he was in College Park, so.
Okay.
Just to show his support that
Yeah, I mean,
he likes the idea.
I don't think we need a vote on this, but as long as we have consensus to move forward to present us something, you know.
Because I'd like to do something where like Tripp had like all the details and the colors and the, and I just have the idea. So if you want to try to do it, I will come up with some, like a PowerPoint that
Yeah.
has choices.
Sure.
No, I'd be interested in
That'd be
seeing, yeah.
Okay.
I think what you brought today in print is very nice.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
it needs
the
to
idea.
have a lot of words,
Right.
just a recognition
Mhm.
of this, this place has such a great history.
Sure.
It doesn't
Yeah.
start in 1634.
Right.
Well, there's already 3 historic markers down at the wharf, right? Is there 3, 2?
Yeah.
Well, there's
3, I think.
3.
there's 3 right at the bottom of the hill, then there's some all along the
Right.
boardwalk too.
I didn't know if you
There's
have that
several
sort of
that-
format
Yeah,
to,
there's several that reference the wharf and the history of the wharf.
yeah.
And then there's one, I think, that references the building of the wharf. And there's actually a spot that's empty.
Well, on one side, so you're talking about the
Right on the
environmental
water.
signage,
Yeah,
talks
yeah.
about the wetlands and the restoration. So
Right.
everything along the waterfront was part of the Wharf Park project. So to the left, if you're facing the water, is more the history of the wharf and on those signs. But I think what we're referring to are the signs that we just did with the Southern Maryland Heritage Area, where they're around the whole county. We did one at Port of Leonardtown, we did one at the wharf, and then they have the War of 1812 signs down there. So more of a historic marker. I think those are the ones you're talking about, which are,
down there it would work, because there's the 1, 2, 3, they're kind of,
Yeah.
there's one and then another and
Well,
then
we'll look at that and kind of come up with an idea,
Yeah,
but
I
in
mean,
the
that would
meantime, if you
be-
want to come up with
that
an
would be
idea
the
for the
spot, yeah.
marker itself, then present to us later, that'd be great.
Okay, I will do that.
Thanks,
I will
Susan.
do that.
Yep.
Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
thank you for your
Yes,
time.
ma'am. Thank you.
okay, the next item is to award the street striping contract. This contract was publicly bid. We only received one bid, which was from W&W Striping. They've done jobs in the town for several years. We have a need for an ongoing contract instead of just job by job. In the past, when we have a striping job, we just go to them and they give us a price and we move forward on a job-to-job basis. We are, at this point, we definitely are gonna do the downtown square restriping, and then kind of move out on the other streets. A lot of it's getting more faded. We have, some of the parking lots really need redone. So they gave us pricing, and we are proposing for a 2-year contract, similar to what we do with the street sweeping, the snow removal contracts, all of those, so we don't have to go through this process every time we have a striping job. So this contract would be for a 2-year term with 2 2-year extensions. And so we just need a motion on that.
And just to be clear, it was put out for bids, and this is the only bid that we
Yes.
got.
And they really do most of the striping work in the county. There's not a lot of companies that are licensed to do that. They have to do all the traffic maintenance and be qualified in that area as well.
So I know we had them before, and I was very pleased with their work. They did a good job.
Yeah.
I was even personally out there with them, watching them, just pretty amazed. So
Yeah.
they did a great job. I have no complaints.
Good.
And so the bid they've given us is for an annual amount or for the total amount
No,
of work to be done?
it's a line item, so depending on what we need done, we can pick off this menu. They're just giving us prices for the different things
Cost
that we
per
might
item.
need.
Cost per item that we would use, so.
So depending on the job. We would just choose off of this menu what we needed to be done at the time.
Similar to all the other contracts that we have.
Yeah, it depends on the contract, yeah. Some are hourly, like snow removal is an hourly number, but it just depends on the type of job.
Any other comments, concerns?
Would the minimum mobilization amount be charged every time that we called on them to complete a task?
Like, which line item are you talking about? Oh, okay, I see. Well, that's saying if there's a
Page
truck, the thermoplastic truck, if that is needed, then there's a minimum mobilization for that. So it just depends on what type of job. You're not necessarily doing thermoplastic for every job that we're
So
doing.
I'm not sure we would even need that.
That's mainly for on state highway, but if we have a water line break and we have to dig up the road and we have some restriping, that's where that would be used.
So they probably just put it in there just to be on the safe
Yeah,
side, that's all.
Tony,
Right.
So it's
Tony
up front,
is-
we
Correct.
know what we.
Right.
Tony put this package together, and he is the one that really coordinates all these jobs, so he tried to include everything that we could possibly use.
Pretty much their entire scope of
possibly.
work.
Right,
But, okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I move to award the street striping contract to W&W Striping for a 2-year term with 2 2-year extensions at the stated bid prices, including the additional line items.
No, second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is also the street sweeping contract with TNT Sweeping. This is the final 1-year extension, and they have agreed to hold their current bid prices. We bid this job in 2015, and they're very conscientious. They do a good job. If we have an issue, they work with us, and they have agreed to hold their prices once again this year. Next year, it would have to go out to bid. This is the final extension.
I was gonna say, they do a great job too.
They
Town
really
always
do.
looks really nice.
Yeah,
so.
they do.
I would move to award for the final 1-year extension at current prices to TNT Sweeping.
I'll second.
Motion and second, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
We've talked about the facade grant a number of times, so I had done a spreadsheet for you. You'd asked for the final numbers. We had 15 businesses who applied for the grants. It was a maximum of 5,000, a matching grant, so the projects could be up to 10,000. As you can see, 14 of the 15 applicants received the grants. One of them withdrew because they couldn't get through the historic trust review. They're going to go back to the drawing board. So we were able to award the other 14. Work has begun on several of them. The Slice House, they've done their new siding. The Vanderwall building across the street, they've already painted. North End Gallery has begun a lot of their work. So you're really starting to see a lot of these projects. The total cost of the projects that we're funding with the $50,000 we had received is $183,351. So you can see it's a seed money for a significant amount of improvements. We have applied for the second $50,000 grant that we hope to receive, but we're really pleased that we had so much requests for this funds. So no action on that, just really for your information. The last thing I had was last week we had a partnering meeting for the next phase of the Route 5 widening, which is the breakout project at Abel and Moakley Street. This will continue from the hospital entrance to the Clark's Rest entrance. It's getting ready to get started. I think you'll see some of the sediment erosion control being set up now. The estimated date of completion is October 30th of next year, and the contractor for this next phase is Highway and Safety Services Incorporated. So we did meet with the contractor and all the different agencies with State Highway, and you'll see a lot of activity.
For the facade improvement grants, have those been, you said those have already been awarded?
They've been awarded. We had a committee, and they voted on the award amounts. And then I've done grant agreements, which had to be approved through the state. All of them have been signed except one or two, which they're just waiting on finalizing pricing. And then some of them have actually begun to do the work.
Okay.
They have a year to do the work.
And so once we hear about the grant, whether or not we have been awarded the grant from the state, then we'll move forward with.
Well, no, we've already gotten this $50,000 last year.
But I mean
So
for the next.
for the next round, we will actually do the same thing. We'll put it out for requests for proposals, and people can apply for the next round as well. The process worked very well. We had a good committee. Mary sat on that committee. So we had an architect that sat on it, a couple of businesses. So it was really a good process, and I think it worked really well. Any other questions?
I would say the improvements look great, the ones I've
Yeah,
noticed.
it's really exciting.
So, yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot more really nice ones.
Okay, that it?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to my report, we do have to, some new appointments for Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Appeals. I'm proposing that we appoint Andrew Ponte to Planning and Zoning, and Doug Islip and Rob Nielsen to the Board of Appeals. So we just need need a motion to accept that. Any comments, questions?
Good.
That's really, don't need to do a motion, it's just consensus.
Just consensus, okay.
I agree.
Okay, all right. The only other thing I wanted to mention is the hotel did get a hold or talk to Brian Norris with Cherry Cove Hospitality the other night at the Riken ribbon cutting. He's doing some extra work in there that he's going to go ahead and redo all the plumbing, or the
Fixtures.
yeah, the fixtures in the bathrooms of each room, so it's going to take him a little longer. So he's hoping to be open by February now, so instead of next month. So okay, that's all I had. Events, Tyler.
All right. So the final sunrise yoga at the Wharf of the season was held on Saturday, September 14th. So from July to September, Evolve Yoga held the monthly yoga classes at the Wharf. The Chamber of Commerce held their annual Taste of St. Mary's event on Saturday, September 14th, where the crowd of attendees were able to sample the offerings from local restaurants and caterers. Saturday, September 28th was an event-filled day. It began with the St. Vincent de Paul Society Friends of the Poor walk throughout town. Then the Coastal Arts Market at the Wharf happened. and then the Zumba and Tai Chi combo class at the Port of Leonardtown Winery, and the Leonardtown Sidewalk Sale featuring local businesses in the square. Following that, the Harvest Festival and Grape Stomp at the Leonardtown Winery and Winery Park occurred, and then the Fall Bar Crawl happened that evening throughout the restaurants and bars in town. The last Coastal Arts Market of the season was held at the Wharf on Saturday, October 12th. The Fall Fest First Friday was a successful day for the businesses in town. The Old Jail Museum, North End Gallery, and Shepherd's Old Field Market had great attendance during the evening, and visitors to the square were treated with live music provided by the Cowboy Crossings, and enjoyed food from Old Town Cafe. Or Ye Old Town Cafe, sorry. Participants in the First Friday were also to help with a community art project by assisting in painting pre-drawn art on smaller boards that will be later added to a larger art piece that'll be displayed in town. The Leonardtown Wharf was active on Saturday, October 5th and 6th with the Bash on the Bay, which this is the annual 2-day fall boat regatta sponsored by the Southern Maryland Boat Club. And then the annual tractor parade sponsored by the Southern Maryland Antique Power Association was held in Leonardtown Square Sunday, October 6th. Upcoming events are the Trick or Treat on the Square from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Zumba Fitness Around Town at Shepherd's Old Field Market Saturday, October 26th from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. And then the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, First Friday is going to be November 1st from 5 to 8 p.m. And that is everything.
Brandon, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I just like everyone to know that the trick or treat on the square is going to be from, as Commissioner Tyler Alt said, from 3 to 5. But the roads are going to be closing from from Chadler to Courthouse from 1:30 to 6:30 p.m. And then the event is going to include face painting, pumpkin decorating, pet costume contests, and of course food and activities. And then the Veterans Day Parade will take place on Monday, November 11th. That will commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day. This is a very special occasion. And then Christmas on the Square will be on November 29th. We're asking any of the businesses who are interested in participating, please contact me. For those of you who don't know, my name is Brandy Blackstone. I'm the Public Relations and Events Coordinator for the Commissioners of McKay. Veterans Day Parade kicks off at 9:45, and then the Memorial Wreath laying ceremony takes place right afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Community Development and Planning?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What are we gonna do about the garage? We keep adding apartments, and we have no place to park.
Oh, garage. I thought you said barrage. I didn't know what you... Well, that's actually part of the wayfinding signage that we're working on to get people off the square and into the back parking spaces.
But you're gonna open the hotel in February, and you're gonna lose that parking in front of the hotel. Is there something we could do to do town parking back here by the, Mattingly's Funeral Home? Something that people would know they could park there and come down to do some signage?
Well, and again, that's what the signage is going to be about, to let people know where the additional parking is. And
Because we have a problem now, on Thursday nights, once a month, I have the Catholic Church comes in, and if they have an event at the Rex, they have to park at the courthouse and come back, and they're complaining already.
okay, well, I mean, the courthouse is only a block away.
I'm sorry, people don't like to walk,
That's true.
and I have that
I
problem.
mean, even if we do a garage, it's going to be 2 blocks away.
But then the other people can park out there, and then the old people can be in town.
Well,
More handicap parking, maybe?
yeah.
I mean, it's something you all need to think about for the future. I mean, it doesn't have to be done today.
Sure, no, that certainly
But I've been talking
is.
for this for 5 or 6 years now.
Yep.
That as you all approve new developments, if you would take $100 per house and stick it in an escrow account somewhere of
Well,
And you want Leonardtown to grow.
certainly.
So if you want it to grow, then you need to plan on where these people are gonna park. I mean, your big events, you're bringing them from the fairgrounds and the college. And
Right.
that's an expense for the town.
Sure, sure.
I
No.
want you to look to the future, just like the logo guy did.
Yep, we certainly are. Thank you. Jay, Southern Maryland Municipal Association.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So I attended the fall conference in Cambridge, Maryland for the Maryland Municipal League. It was our board meeting, and I know you were there as well, Mayor. So it was a good turnout. It was a total of 650 that attended, so I was very impressed. It was a large conference. Of course, my wife and Katie and I, we always walk around the downtown historic parts of Cambridge, always get ideas, taking pictures. Of course, I'm sending them here because I like the lighting across the street sort of downtown, so I always try to get some good ideas.
I got several pictures that weekend.
Yep. Let's see, what's next? Our legislative dinner is December 11th. That's going to be in Annapolis. I'm not sure who the council was available to attend, but I'll be attending that. And I did attend the ribbon cutting for the Donnie Williams Center at St. Mary's Riken. Mayor, I know you were there as well. It's actually, I don't know if everyone in the audience has got to see it. It's a beautiful building. I highly recommend you go check it out sometime. It's since I graduated from there in '99. It's a lot of changes. So
That gym needed to be replaced when I was there 40 years ago.
and it was there. It needed it to when I was there. It was pretty rough. So congratulations to them on their new addition. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Just one thing on the conference, it was well attended, and they had the most attendees for any fall conference, plus the most representatives from each more municipalities than they have ever had.
It's very well
that was
attended.
good.
So I was impressed.
Okay, thank you. Mary, Business Development and Retention.
I don't remember if by the last meeting that the Doodad Deli had opened, but they have opened since, and they've been really, really successful. Every time I go over there, there's a line and a lot of people. I know they're super busy and exhausted, and that's great. That's what we want for small business. Also, wanted to remind everybody to go over to Shepherd's. I went over to Shepherd's and got this really cool jacket, and thank goodness somebody else in the room hadn't bought it beforehand, so that I actually had the chance to get it. So I was really happy with that. And I had a visitor this morning from Chopticon High School who dropped off tickets to the play, so free tickets for all the council members. And if anybody else wants tickets, the play on Friday is called Metamorphosis, and she said it's beautiful. So thought that was interesting. So that's what I have.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'll be around if anybody has any questions, please let me know. And if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second by Mary?
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Great meeting. Thank you. Tripp.